Since it emerged in 1981, HIV/AIDS-related illness has killed tens of millions of people. The virus known as HIV is often transmitted through sex or needles and still carries with it a heavy stigma. This can lead some to delay testing or hide a diagnosis, putting themselves and others at even more risk.
A new VOA documentary explores this stigma and its effect on the 35 million people currently living with HIV. VOA's Jeff Swicord was the lead producer of the project called AIDS Living in the Shadows, and he talked with On Assignment's Lisa Vohra. You will likely recognize the documentary's host, a world-famous music superstar.
To millions, being HIV positive means living in the shadows. I'm Elton John, and I'm an AIDS activist. Stigma forces people underground and stands in the way of ending the AIDS crisis.
These are really people stories. They're about what people go through who are HIV and the stigma they face.
And I looked at those pills and I remember thinking this is going to be the death of me.
I strive to survive, just for him.
In Haiti, 2 children are born with HIV every day. 20-year-old Venice Luis's parents died from AIDS when she was 11. Orphaned, she went to live with an aunt. Several years later, she suspected something might be wrong with her.
I was getting sick often, and they took me to get an HIV test when I was 14. And that is when they found out I am positive. And my aunt's boyfriend said that I cannot stay in the house because I would infect the other children.
Vernice was an interesting case because she, I couldn't figure out if she really wanted us to film her at first. It was a little difficult and a little hard, and at times she was kind of shy and didn't like that I was following her around with the camera all the time. So it was a little strange, but then she started to, I think, maybe gain some trust with us, which is always important when you're working with a character.
Venice received sporadic treatment at a hospital. She also met with a psychologist about the abuse she was suffering.
They told me that if I did not do what they say, they will kick me out of the house. And I will be in the street like a prostitute sleeping with men, and they will not accept me back.
I noticed, just from a producer standpoint, you just kind of kept the camera on her for a while so that the audience can absorb that moment. What were your thoughts at that time?
Generally, when you get a reaction like that, and you see it's an emotional reaction, you don't want to say anything, you don't want to do anything. But of course, my translator started to talk to translate, and I just grabbed him real quick to say, stop, be quiet. And I let Vernice go through the moment that she was going through, and we just kept the camera rolling. And it shows the emotion and the drama that she went through.
The children at the orphanage.
Yeah.
They're HIV positive. You spent some time with them.
Yeah.
Tell me about what that was like.
In one way, happy and fun because they're really great kids, and you can kind of tell they're kind of starved for attention. Some of them, because I don't think people come around too much to the orphanage to talk with them. But it was great working with them, and there was one point I was on the floor shooting them while they were studying, and the kids would just like come climb on your back, and they were fascinated with the camera and the eyepiece and everything. And it was almost hard to shoot. And I almost had to tell them, get off my back, I gotta work. But I was like, no, just leave them there. It was really sweet, yeah.
You focus on all these different countries and different ways that they're trying to control the spread of HIV. So you have Vancouver, where they have drug clinics where people can actually go there, and that way they are not infected. Meanwhile, you have Uganda and Nigeria are banning homosexuality completely because they believe that that's how HIV is spreading. So I just want to know your thoughts as you're putting this together on the disparity between these countries.
There's a culture war. There's a real culture war between the West and places in Africa where there have been a lot of influence of American evangelicals. And in some ways, American evangelicals have kind of given up on the U.S. and say, okay, our way of life and our way of thinking about things and our biblical traditions haven't really taken root here, but in places like Africa and Uganda and Nigeria, which are very conservative societies, they get some play and people take to heart what they're saying.
Afani Arazaliki runs a clinic providing healthcare services for gay men in Abuja, Nigeria. 17% of gay men in Nigeria are HIV positive.
We can't keep quiet for people to die or for people to lose their life. The law, on the other hand, we are battling the law because even people like us stand to go for 10 years imprisonment for doing what we're doing.
He sees those laws as something that is fueling the AIDS virus in the country because it's pressing gay men and transsexuals underground in the country where they can't seek health services and information to protect themselves from HIV.
So we have a lot more work to do where it becomes a disease that's like living with cancer or diabetes or any other chronic illness because so many people are affected.
Life wasn't meant to be good for me.
I was looked down on.
Putting this whole thing together, what are your thoughts, your journey as a documentary filmmaker?
I was just really happy with the characters that we had in the stories. I thought they were all very strong characters and definitely had something to say. I think it's an incredibly important issue. I think that the AIDS crisis will not end unless stigma is ended. People have to feel free to get health services and information to protect themselves, or it's not going to end.
I believe I can live a long life. I wasn't supposed to be here now.
Wow, some very powerful work there from both Jeff and Lisa. Thanks to them. And a special thank you, of course, to Sir Elton John for helping VOA get out these stories.
Yeah, and Alex, the young man coming out of the piece where he said that, he wasn't supposed to be here now. I mean, very powerful, and it's an indication really as to how far medication has come for this disease.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see the path of treatment, and hopefully it will continue getting better. Yeah. Well, if you would like to view the full half-hour documentary, AIDS Living in the Shadows, you can find it on our website, voanews.com.